Memoirs of a Royal Guard. Written by Ansel. Chapter 6. The Lecture. Iridescence helped me polish my armor one more time while we stood in the hall of the Royal Guard Training Academy. She had volunteered to come with me for my punishment, which says a lot about her character. It was our day off. She should have been out doing whatever it was she normally did in her free time, probably getting her mane done. Her mane was always styled even after wearing the helmet. Most of the mares complained a lot about it. Somehow she'd found a way around it. Very few things scare me, but speaking in public is one of them. Despite how bad I felt about taking up my partner's time, I was glad she had come with me. That is why Royal Guards always work with partners. There is always a pony to watch your back.
It's time. Are you ready?
She asked me in a soothing tone. I nodded. Yes. Which wasn't a lie. I was ready, in fact, to go inside the classroom, but not ready to speak. What could be worse than 60 ponies who idolize Royal Guards staring at you while you let them down? Oh well, never let any pony shake your cool. Orders were orders, and mine were to give a lecture. Iridescence bumped her flake against my own and pushed me towards the classroom door. Being stared at has never bothered me. Royal Guards were trained for that. There were a lot of eyes looking at me. The instructor motioned in my direction and said, and right on time, as all Royal Guards should be. Listen up, ponies, he said gruffly. This is Silent Knight. He isn't just a Royal Guard, he is one of the Princess Luna's house guards, and became so right out of his way of his very academy. We should all aspire to achieve what he has. Give him your full attention. Silent Knight. He indicated to me and stepped aside. Great. Just great. I wasn't any sort of special pony. I just did my job and happened to be on Princess Luna's house guard because I was stupid enough to volunteer. It wasn't like it was part of Princess Celestia's house guard. That gave me pause, and my head tilted while I mulled over that concept. Actually, why would one house guard be less than the other? That's what created Nightmare Moon in the first place, right? Ponies not giving Princess Luna her due? I smiled ever so slightly at the thought. How about that? I'm on the princess's house guard. My princess was as good as any other princess. The sisters were equals. It was in that moment that I felt satisfied. My dream had been achieved already. Right out of the academy, too. Perhaps I was a special pony after all. My ears twitched, catching the sound of a soft cough. Silent Night, the instructor repeated, snapping me back to reality. How long had I been standing there without saying a word? I cursed my internal monologue and realized I was, in fact, some kind of special pony. Okay, it was showtime. Iridescence had helped me in my lecture by drilling it into me. Just memorize this, stand there and repeat it, and that was what she had coached. During each shift change, I had stood next to her and given her the speech. It was all in my head, so it now was time to repeat it once more, and that's exactly what I was going to do. I nodded at the instructor. No need for him to suspect my daydreaming. My silence was just making a point about the weight of my lecture. That was only fitting. Thank you. My eyes fixed forward. After looking at the group of ponies that were not much younger than myself, I began. As a trainee of this academy, you will learn many skills. You'll also learn many procedures. Skills become muscle memory and procedures become routine. They make up two halves of a guard's knowledge that you must be able to execute without thinking. So far, so good. What challenges us as Royal Guards is the fact that sometimes we'll find ourselves in situations where the hard-trained skills do not apply. As an individual, you will face problems where you must deviate from your routine. That is when you must use your most important weapon. To make a point, I lifted my hoof and tapped my helmet. Your mind. I paused for dramatic effect, and then paced back and forth in front of the room. You will not be trained for every possible situation, nor could you be. That is the true power of a Royal Guard, the ability to think. It is because of that, the very fact that you must prepare yourself by strengthening your mind. You must have faith in yourself that you can make good decisions with the information you have on hoof. When you do face those challenges outside the norm, and you will, always keep your eyes on what is most important. What is the basis of our duty? It's to protect. I raised my voice for that bit, just like Iridescence had, and held that tone for a minute more. Take responsibility and make a choice. Make the best one you can to ensure that whomever or whatever you're protecting will be safe first and foremost. Sometimes that may mean deviating from procedure. That notion seemed to disturb the assembled ponies. It was the opposite from what they were taught day in and day out. In some ways, the academy offered little more than a foundation. Everything else was learned on the job. Pressing on, I continued. That very idea was frightening to me, and it should be to you as well. Fear is okay. Fear keeps you alert and alive. It heightens your senses. Terror is your enemy. Terror will paralyze you with indecision, and no decision is the greatest danger. Control your fear, and as long as you use your mind and keep your eye on your duty, you'll know the right thing to do. I paused once again to let that point sink in. But, and I do want to stress this, do not make it a habit of breaking procedure. If you do so, you could be relieved of your duty, imprisoned, or even be required to speak in front of trainees. Although, you probably shouldn't say that last part. Thank you. With the lecture finished, I turned and walked out of the classroom without looking back. There would be no questions and answer session. My commitment was done. In the hall, Iridescence was staring at me wide-eyed. She had both hooves against her mouth, and she looked like the pony that desperately needed to laugh, but was holding out of politeness. What? I asked. My best attempts to blend into the wall were usually not successful. Royal Guard armor just wasn't the greatest of camouflage, but that didn't mean I didn't try. The more I blended in, the less I'd be engaged. Princess Luna had been busy decorating and, to quote her, making the space her own. Her office and chambers were now a light shade of purple. It didn't quite match my armor, but it was close enough, and I willed it to be more so. That way I could blend in better. Of course, it should be also noted that white Pegasi tend to stand out against purple walls. Silent Night. Blast, my camouflage attempt had failed yet again. Perhaps next time I'd stand guard inside of a cardboard box. Yes, Princess? The princess levitated a parchment to my way and asked, Wouldst thou read this and tell us what thou thinkest? What I thought? Who cared what I thought? I'm just a guard. I don't have any opinions on official documents. It would be inappropriate for me to, Yes, Princess. I replied and then mentally swore at my mouth. The parchment arrived and I lifted a hoof to catch it. The words on the page were intelligible, but it certainly didn't have any format of sort of paperwork I've seen before. That was as utterly confusing as the princess asking me to check her work. Well? The princess asked, a hint of nervousness in her voice. It was quiet for a moment longer and then replied, Princess, it seems like a very interesting account of some pony named Daring Do and a dragon. Are we at risk at a dragon attack? When did this occur? I'll inform the captain after my shift. Princess Luna floated the parchment back to her desk, smiling a bit. Thou likest it, then? Liked it? It was a report. Typically reports were either well written or not. It was very accurate and clear. I don't know what I liked the idea about the dragon may attack. That is more concerning than anything else. The princess laughed. It seemed to me that a lot of ponies around me laugh when I speak. Fear not, Silent Night. 'Tis but a work of fiction. A false report, Princess. Who would do such a thing? More laughter. It was nice to see her laugh since she was usually so serious. Although why she was laughing at me I didn't understand. Thou art too serious, Silent Night. We wrote this. 'Tis fan fiction. Was the princess admitting that during all the time she seemed to be working she was, in actuality, just writing false reports? That didn't seem right. Surely she did some work. I sensed that she saw my confusion, mostly because she said, Thou still lookest confused. Perhaps we should elaborate. Please, Princess. It was time to get to the bottom of this. Filing false reports was a crime after all, but arresting the princess would probably not look good. Plus her sister could just pardon her. She might just be able to pardon herself, actually. It is stressful for us now that our royal duties have been resumed. We also do not... She paused for a thought and a moment before continuing. We do not have many social engagements yet. As such, we write stories to entertain ourselves. 'Tis truly fun, not mischief. That made more sense and was far less treasonous than I originally imagined. You write stories like mothers read to foals, I said in understanding. Or so I thought. Nay, Silent Night, she said quite seriously. Our stories are not for foals.
They are for ponies of all ages who like adventure and intrigue. Even royal guards may read them and enjoy.
Literature was not really my strong suit. When I was in Canterlot Secondary School, I focused more on easily applied skills. Reading and writing were clearly important. I mastered them but never took an interest in poetry and fiction. There wasn't a lot there that translated into royal guard skills, but the princess said they were for any pony, then it was so. It was sensible to just nod, and instead of leaving it at that, for some reason I said, "You called this fan fiction, princess, but I did not recall a fan being in your story."
Thou is being quite literal, she replied. The character Daring Do is not of our creation. Nay, a wonderful writer by the name of A.K. Yearling created her and created many books about her heroism. Those books are known and beloved across all of our land. We are a fan of these books, and it is not uncommon for literary-minded fans such as we to take a character and write our own stories. It helps grow the fiction, and many build communities around these stories.
That was interesting to me. That you can take somebody else's work and expand on it. And that is acceptable to do, princess, even though you didn't originally create this Daring Do. And your stories may not be what the original creator wanted. The princess nodded happily.
Verily, this is so. Thanks to Equestria's weak copyright laws and the absence of giant mouse corporations that compels bureaucrats to extend such rights as well beyond what is reasonable.
There were giant mice, and they were able to form corporations? That was a frightening thought. More so than corporations than the mice. Beyond that, to be honest, I didn't understand half of what the princess had just said, but I got the gist. Score 1 for the little pony. There we go. Man, my right nose is plugged up, so forgive me if my Luna doesn't sound good. I can't do female voices for the life of me at the moment. But what I can do for the life of me, because I love them so much, are my wonderful donators. Thank you, Chase Lemaster, HKH4, aka Texture, Triss, the animated ghost, and of course another special thank you to Silent Titan. Seriously, you guys are all amazing, and I appreciate you guys so much. Also, thanks to your Patreon funding, that project that I've been working on is soon to be released. I can only hope that my nose is not screwed up by then, because I would want to deliver the best experience possible. Anyways, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.